Hey, baby, it's time for the Nikki Alpert Podcast. Come on, pull up a chair. We gonna have some fun.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Nikki Alpert Podcast. Hi, Dr. Tabatha.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, I am so grateful you're here. It took us so long to do this. So Dr. Tabatha, you guys, is a triple board certified gynecologist in obstetrics, gynecology, menopause, which most of your gynecology doctors are not, and functional medicine. And really the whole certification in menopause and functional medicine is why I wanted to talk to Dr. Tabatha. She is also licensed in over half of the country. So if you ever want to have a Zoom call with her or have her be your doctor, she's available. And she is a keynote speaker. She's a mentor. She's a mom. She's a grandma, which means she's one of us. And you will see that in the way she is just so approachable and speaks in layman terms. So you will not be confused about any of this when we're done. She is also the host of her own podcast called The Gutsy Gynecologist, where she specializes in discussing functional medicine, which is really about getting to the root of the problem instead of what most conventional doctors do, which is give you a pill to treat your symptoms. So for all of those reasons, I call Dr. Tabatha the Gutsy Gynecologist. Welcome to the Nikki Alpert Podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This conversation is so important. And honestly, I think your listeners are going to be a little shocked by some of the things that we're going to talk about.
Well, let's start with the most shocking then. Shall we? Like, what do you think is the most shocking thing that people, well, personally, I think the fact that people have never even heard of what functional medicine is and don't have a clue about what it is. I mean, if you have a computer, how do you not know about any of this?
Well, let me be super transparent. 6 years ago, I had never heard of functional medicine, and I was in the medical world, in the medical field. Functional medicine has been around over 2 decades. It's well established. But it is not known in conventional medicine. We are so bogged down with the idea of treating disease and diagnoses that we don't understand the world of health and wellness and prevention at all. It's not talked about. I was not trained in that whatsoever. And it wasn't until conventional medicine had failed me multiple times as a patient myself that I finally sought outside the world of medicine. And that's where I found functional medicine. And it was shocking to me. Like, I felt angry. Why was this kept from me? Why didn't anybody?
A doctor, an MD.
Yes, an MD. Like, why didn't I know about this? And why aren't we taught to look at root causes instead of practicing all this Band-Aid medicine that we're practicing? So I went through quite a time period of confusion, anger, frustration. And then I just decided to flip the script and empower myself and say, you know what? I can do things differently. I don't have to keep practicing this broken type of medicine that I was trained to do. And that's when the whole world changed for me. And, now I'm actually healing women and helping them feel amazing, not just like getting rid of one symptom and trading it in for another symptom with endless frustrations and doctor's visits that don't really go anywhere, Yeah,
healing versus treating.
We train people to rely on the doctors and to expect the medical system to fix them. We have really been brainwashed that our bodies don't have the ability to heal and to be balanced. And it couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, I really do feel like we've taught people to give up the power of their bodies, and we need to teach them to take back control and listen to their innate intelligence and their gut, essentially, and start to tap into everything that we've taught them to turn off and ignore.
Okay, so let's start with the very basics of it all, because I still feel like even though you and I totally agree and we know what we're talking about, I feel like most people have no idea what we're talking about still. So the idea that conventional medicine waits until you're sick. Then you go to the doctor, you find out you have cancer, you find out you have diabetes, you find out and then you treat the things you get. Where functional medicine goes beneath the surface and really overall, I think if I'm right here, and correct me if I'm wrong, preventative medicine as opposed to treating. Is that a good way to say it?
Well, preventative medicine is definitely part of it, but the role of functional medicine is when someone is suffering from an ailment, from a condition, no matter what it is, that you don't just look at the symptoms and say, how can I get rid of those symptoms? You say, what is driving that process all the way back to the physiology? What's happening inside the cells that make up the organs, that make up the systems that interact and make up the body? And so the thyroid is a prime example where we have absolutely failed women. I have had Hashimoto's since I was 17, since I had, a teen pregnancy that was extremely stressful. I had a terrible gut. I was labeled IBS and written off. And my thyroid was acting up and misbehaving. And so the quick response from medicine we're taught is either give you medicine if it's not functioning because it's slowed down, give you medicine if it's sped up, or intervene and kill it off with radioactive iodine. But we never stop and say, I wonder why the thyroid slowed down its thyroid production. Why do I need thyroid replacement, thyroid medication? The reason your thyroid slowed down or downregulated the production of its thyroid hormone is it's either being attacked, or it doesn't have the ingredients to make its thyroid hormone, or it's diverting resources to go and handle a gut infection or a heavy metal exposure or a virus that you got like mono or Epstein-Barr. So in conventional medicine, we're not questioning why. There's no looking for the answer of why this is happening to your body. So I truly believe God created our bodies to stay in balance and to manage all of this stuff. So it's not that your thyroid is sluggish and lazy and you just got dealt a bad hand. Your thyroid is turning its volume down and not producing as much because it has to go take care of other things. So if you make a lot of thyroid hormone, that's going to increase your metabolism and expend your energy on losing weight and moving your bowels and growing your hair and your skin. If you have a gut infection that's not being addressed, you need to use those resources to kill those bacteria off or those yeast off. You don't need to be growing your hair all beautiful and long and, reproducing and having babies. You need to take care of this major issue that you have going on. But that's not how we look at it. We look at it as our bodies are failing us. And so we get angry and we get mad at our bodies and we say how much we hate them and how, they cause us so much pain and frustration. And it's like, you need to take a step back and give your body some grace and say, maybe it actually knows what it's doing. And I'm just not thinking, am I upsetting my thyroid? Am I exposing it to stuff that I shouldn't be exposing it to? When I was young, I swam in major chlorinated pools. I got all kinds of fluoride treatments. I ate all kinds of halides in my terribly processed diet.
What's a halide?
So if you ever took chemistry class, the periodic table of elements, there's a row called halogens. They all have the same chemical properties. So fluoride, chlorine, bromine, iodine, they all can do the same things in a little bit different way. And so iodine is the halogen that we use to make thyroid hormone. T4 has 4 iodines. T3 has 3 iodines. But when we are bombarded with these other halogens, they can displace that iodine and really wreak havoc on our thyroid function and our ability to make our thyroid hormone and to convert it properly.
So it messes up the balance of everything.
Yeah, completely. So I was drowning my body in all of these other halogens. And so iodine could never help my thyroid make my thyroid hormone. And Nobody questioned that or asked why. They just gave me a procedure that I didn't really consent to because I was still a child and I didn't know any better. And they just wiped out my thyroid. They burnt it out so it would stop functioning altogether. That was their solution. The other common solution is just take it out, right? Like, I'm a surgeon. I was taught to remove the offending organ. If the organ is misbehaving, if your gallbladder's making stones or spasming, just take it out. We don't really need that. Just take out the appendix, take out the uterus. It's such an archaic, gross way of handling the body, which is a miracle. It's such a beautiful thing because we don't understand it. So we just say, okay, get rid of it.
Get rid of it. After I had my children, I did not get a period for 6 years. And then I got really heavy periods back to back. And my gynecologist said, let's just do a hysterectomy. And I said, why? And she was like, well, you're done having kids. You got a boy and a girl. You're done. You're not going to have kids now. Let's just get rid of it. And I was like, who does that? And she said, well, I did. And I was like, oh, you know what I need? And she said, what? And I said, a new gynecologist. And I was out. I put my pants back on. I got out of there as fast as I could. Now, my mom had a hysterectomy at 39. And I remember being very inquisitive about it. Like, why would you take out that part of your body? And the fact that I was 8 or 9 when that happened, did you guys never, like, were you ever in medical school and nobody ever was like, excuse me, why is this happening? No medical students ever questioned that in regular medical school?
I was a big questioner. I got in a lot of trouble. I got yelled at by a lot of my attending physicians to just shut up and do my job. You're not supposed to question. This is how it is. This is how we do it. And you have to remember, gynecologists are surgeons.
Right.
So I spent 4 years cutting people open and I loved it. It's a thrilling, very rewarding job to be a surgeon. You have no idea how that feels to open someone up and close them back up and fix their problem. Like, it's necessary when you have big ovarian cysts that have twisted, you have endometriosis growing on things, you have a baby that's stuck and can't get out. But that was the tool in my toolbox. And so don't come to me as a gynecologist and expect me to know how to balance your hormones using, your gut and your diet and your lifestyle.
Okay, wait, so let's talk about that. So, I'm 57 years old. 2 years ago, I went to a new gynecologist because I don't remember why I left the other one, but I went to a new one seeking hormone replacement therapy. And I just had happened to do a podcast with a woman who became a very dear friend of mine, who is a gynecologist in New York. And as I was telling her everything I was doing, because she's not licensed here, after about 6 months, she was like, Nikki, you're not having breakthrough bleeding from your hormones. You're getting your period. It is every 29 days. Now, my gynecologist didn't make those notes, wasn't following any of that stuff. So my girlfriend said to me, go off of all of the hormones and let's just see what happens if you get your period. 29 days later, I got it. 29 days later, I got it. 29. So I left that gynecologist because she had no idea what she was doing. And the truth is, there are probably a handful of gynecologists who are certified in menopause. Is that the deal?
So not every gynecologist has menopause training. I did that extra after residency. We get a basic understanding of, here are the prescription hormones that you can offer women for vasomotor symptoms, for hot flashes and night sweats, to relieve those symptoms. There is not extensive training on how to understand hormone imbalances and that they drive a lot of the GYN issues and how to get them back into balance.
Yeah, and not just in menopause, like all the time.
Like, I was a very well-known surgeon for endometriosis. Like, if you had really bad endometriosis and I had to go in and do major surgery that most gynecologists couldn't handle, I did that. And I still didn't understand that it was estrogen dominance and gut inflammation driving that process, because my focus was not on preventing it and resolving it through lifestyle changes. My focus was removing it surgically, having them come back probably in another year and doing it again. Like, that was the training. You just keep removing it when it gets bad enough until you do the hysterectomy. So my mind was never of the mindset, why is this happening?
Never?
It's just like, well, we're taught that it's familial. So if your mom or your grandma had it, you're more likely to have it. And that's that. Like, that's what you do.
I'll tell you why I think that's so weird. I have a very good relationship with my endocrinologist, my internist, because of my diabetes and because he's been my doctor for 40 years. And I have noticed over the 40 years that as he introduces the newer technologies to me to manage my diabetes, now I'm not a type 2, I'm a type 1. So we're not talking about, I obviously caught something, my body caught a virus, and then my body attacked my pancreas. First of all, do you think that could have been avoided with functional medicine? Is there a possibility that functional medicine can slow down or even stop type 1 diabetes? Or is that completely not a thing?
I don't think we're there yet, but we're starting to understand how viruses impact the function of our organs and how it starts an autoimmune process or it drives the development of cancer, things like that. So we're learning more and more as time goes on. And type 1 diabetes is this attack on the pancreas to the point where your islet cells no longer make insulin. They're just done, right? And so you require that we give you insulin. The same thing can happen with our thyroid. If we get attacked enough, it just stops producing. And sometimes that attack is a virus like Epstein-Barr, and sometimes it's something else. So we have glimpses of understanding, but like, how do you prevent that? We don't even know what exact virus is causing type 1 diabetes.
Right.
So,
okay. So to back up, so as he's continuing to introduce me to new technologies, and if I'm wearing a sensor, which is a constant glucose monitor, tells you what your blood sugar is all day long, you would think that as an endocrinologist or a internist who specializes in a particular disease, that you'd want to try it on. But it seems to me that Western medicine, as you've said several times, I've heard you on other podcasts, it's the same thing everybody learned since 1960, the same books, the same facts, and they just keep spitting out the same stuff. And there's no continued education for what's happening now in the world, functional medicine, Eastern medicine, and there's a bunch of stuff. How are they just closed off? Is that just what scientists are? They're just, these are the facts? Is that the deal?
So the main reason that the medical system is broken is because it's owned by the pharmaceutical industry. I hate to say it, but that is the absolute truth. As soon as I was a second-year medical student and started shadowing and rotating through physician offices and at the hospital for my rotations, I got to meet all the drug reps. They would bring lunch multiple days a week. They give you their spiel on whatever drug is coming out and popular that week. And that is how you learn to treat these diseases, based on the drugs that are coming out for that, diagnosis.
To keep people sick, but not heal them, because then the companies go under. And, as a hairdresser, I had so many beautiful young girl clients who did that for a living. And I remember over and over again, but I remember the first time there was a woman, I was probably 27 and she was in her mid 30s. And she said to me, Nikki, I'm going to tell you something that is probably going to be the saddest thing you'll ever hear from anybody. And I said, what? And she said, there will never be a cure for diabetes. We make too much money selling the drugs. Yes, and I was like, exactly. What do you mean? And she said, Nikki, it'll just never happen. It would ruin the pharmaceutical companies, and they run every single bit of everything medical.
Yes, they make the decisions on what kind of studies get done. They fund the studies. So it's very uncommon to find studies that aren't about drugs. You don't see a lot of lifestyle studies. You don't see a lot of diet intervention studies. If you do, they don't make the mass media. They don't make the big journals. They're
not paying for advertising.
No one is paying to have that done. Nobody's paying for that. And so it's very sad. And when I was in that medical world, I didn't realize how broken it really was. We get brainwashed into thinking that we're doing the right thing, that we're making a difference because these medications are so necessary that your body couldn't possibly function without them. And they're all lies. It's really sad. So what I say to my patients and just to women in general is, you're just looking to the wrong people. There are other doctors, nurses, coaches. There are other providers out there who understand root cause medicine. They actually want to help you heal. They don't want to just give you a Band-Aid, and they can help you through this process. It's going to look differently because it's not run by insurance. That's the other huge barrier. Like, if you don't have a diagnosis, I can't order labs and tests on you, and so they tie my hands. I can't spend an hour talking to you and asking you about your life stressors and your diet and do you move your body every day. I get dinged if I take more than 15 minutes. I used to have to sit in meetings every month and get yelled at because I wasn't seeing enough patients, doing enough surgery, making enough money. And I was freaking exhausted. Like, I was working 90, 100-hour weeks, with 2 little kids at home being neglected, yet I wasn't making them enough money. It's a
neglecting your
system,
own needs and getting sick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly. Like, doctors are just as sick as the patients. So you're looking to the wrong person to help you get well.
It's funny because I married a guy who back in the 60s and 70s, he's a little older than I am, was already taking herbs and vitamins and really knew all of this before the masses of people really started to hear about it. Being that functional medicine, I think it was 2001 when that sort of all came to fruition, right?
Yeah.
And my husband was doing the herbs and the vitamins things in the 70s and the 80s and continues to. And when I married him, started to fill me with them as well. And also really taught me about how, the way he said it is that doctors are not your friends. They are the go-between between the drug company and the sick people. And so the interesting thing for me also, the fact that insurance doesn't cover it and all of that. And there are so many things that have to be checked off in order to get the insurance to cover things. But the fact that functional medicine is not scientifically based, that's an issue for the drug companies because, am I right? Is that a big reason why they just don't cover it?
No, because the interventions that we're recommending to help people get better don't make money. You don't make money off diet changes,
zinc, vitamin D, all that stuff,
exercising, and managing your circadian rhythms and meditating and doing yoga. Like, none of that is going to make them any money. We're bringing them off their drugs. But I do want to just say, like, I think the majority of doctors out there do care and they want to help, but they really have no idea. They're just as confused. They don't have any training in nutrition, or if they have any, it's wrong. It's outdated. I mean, just the crazy things that we've recommended over the decades, the low fat, no fat diet, the no salt diet. Like, we just keep getting it so wrong.
You just keep turning the pyramid over and over again.
It's such a hot mess. And the food industry has destroyed our food. Like, we do not eat real food.
No.
And so doctors just don't have any idea. So they stick with what they know, and they're in survival mode, just like the patients are. And they're just trying to get through their day and not get in trouble and lose their paycheck. So,
unbelievable.
It's just sad. It's broken.
Okay. So now that you've completely changed things, what does your practice look like?
So my practice is virtual. So we do appointments like this. I see women all over the country. I'm licensed in over half the states. And we sit and we talk, and you fill out a very long questionnaire about your entire life, because what happened to you as a child actually affects you now as an adult. If you have had IBS symptoms all your life, that's really important for me to know. If you have had trauma, if you have had surgeries, infections, wisdom teeth removed, dental issues, I need to know all of it. And that takes time for me to go through and look at all of that. I write it out on a timeline so I can see, what has this body done and gone through? How has the mind, been affected, and how has she functioned through all of this? And then we have to work on this whole body, mind, spirit connection and reestablish and heal all the pieces together. And that always looks like a comprehensive approach. Like, we have to turn all the pieces over of the puzzle to see the picture. That's where medicine gets it wrong. They think of systems in silos, like you go to the endocrinologist for your thyroid, and then you go to the gastroenterologist for your constipation, and then you go to the dermatologist for your eczema. They're all coming from your gut. Right. And the gastroenterologist has no idea how to handle the gut microbiome and the functioning of the gut. They're trained how to look at anatomical problems, big things that you can see with your eyes, not what's going on at the cellular level with the microbiome and the function of the gut. And so we're going to all these doctors who aren't talking to each other. Nobody's looking at the pieces of the puzzle together. So I turn over all the pieces. I look at all of them and I say, okay, we need to fix your adrenals. You're a hot, stressed out mess. That's affecting your gut. Now your gut is got yeast overgrowth and we need to heal that. Your yeast overgrowth is causing your fatty liver and causing you to crave more carbs, which is causing insulin resistance and prediabetes. And it's all messing with your sex hormones.
Remember that song, your knee bone's connected to your hip bone's connected.
Yes, exactly.
But they never did it with like your thyroid's connected to your pancreas, connected to your kidneys. But how, I don't understand how science missed this. But continue. I'm sorry. I just had to interject and say that. I'm blown away.
I love that song. I think that makes perfect sense.
We should write a new one.
All interconnected.
Yeah.
And it pings off of each other. So I think of the whack-a-mole game. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Sure.
Like, you have this big mallet, and every time the mole comes up, you whack it, and then another one comes up out of a different hole.
Right.
So if you take thyroid medicine, I promise your adrenals are going to respond. Your sex hormones are going to respond. The mole is going to pop up in a different area, and you're going to have new symptoms because you never fixed the actual reason the mole was there in the first place. Right. So it's like a dog chasing its tail. And the saddest part is, like, when I started studying functional medicine, like, all of these memories of first year medical school came flooding back to me. All my, classes in physiology and biochemistry and all of those things I did learn. We all learn. And then as soon as you get out into the space of the doctor's office and the hospital system and the drug companies, it all goes out the window, and you actually forget how the body functions and what it's doing at the cellular level. And you're just very much focused on get rid of that symptom, because we all want this quick McDonald's fix. We want something fixed at that appointment in 15 minutes. Here's your solution. Here's your Prozac. Here's your Zantac, whatever. Here's your cream, and then don't come back,
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you take the comprehensive questionnaire, you spend time with the people, you get to know them. So let's say that you have a client who has hyperthyroid, a little bit of IBS, and she's also in menopause. Where do you start?
I do all the testing. I do functional testing, looking at the gut microbiome with the stool and how your function is. Are you making digestive enzymes to even digest your food? How is your immune system in your gut lining? Is it shot and you can't even stop anything from entering your body? Do you have some kind of parasite that's causing active leaky gut? We need to know all of this. I do cortisol testing to look at your 24-hour cortisol pattern to see how are you handling your stressors through the day. Are your adrenals tanked? Do you have adrenal fatigue? Are you in adrenal overdrive? And then I look at a full thyroid panel to see, are you using thyroid hormones that you're even making, or is it working against you? And I do all of this comprehensive testing and I create a plan. Like, here's your gut healing regimen. Here's how we're going to get your adrenals working again. Here is how we're going to remove all these triggers that are angering your immune system and causing this autoimmune response. And it's incredibly rewarding when we do that, because women, they finally transform. They finally feel like themselves again and get their health back. But it doesn't happen when you just try to piecemeal things together and do one thing here or one thing there.
When you're whack-a-moling. So how long from like diagnosis to coming up with a plan to starting the plan does it take for people to really realize, dear God, what have I been waiting for? Why did I, thank God I'm doing, like, when do they start to feel a little better? And that ultimately,
it's actually pretty quickly. I mean, usually 4 to 6 weeks into the gut protocol, they're pooping every day and they're not feeling so bloated and they're sleeping better. And they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how miserable I actually was and how different I feel already. And I do hear a lot like, why did it take me so long? But people just don't know. And it's amazing how much progress you can make in such a short period of time. Gluten is a great example. Gluten is the main protein in wheat, bread, pasta, crackers, cookies, baked goods, like literally it's everywhere. And now we put it in things. We use it as a filler for our medications.
A binder too.
As a binder, it's in our sauces and our thickening agents. Some toothpastes even have it. And so our body is seeing gluten in amounts that it never has before in history. And we've genetically modified it so much that our immune system is angry. It does not want it in our body. And so it attacks it every time we eat it. And for people with autoimmune conditions, literally removing gluten out of your diet, you will feel like a new person probably in about 4 weeks. All of a sudden, the pain will start to go away. The rashes will start to go away. The headaches, you will sleep. I mean, it's incredible. When I got gluten out of my life, it was like the lights came back on. I could function again.
So, you know, I'm going to go for the devil's advocate here, because whenever I, over the years, talk to people about how I eat and what I do, they pretty much just think that I have OCD about my food, which, okay, call me whatever you want to call me. I feel better. And like, I knew that a lot of that diabetes and celiac sometimes went hand in hand. And I didn't really learn that till maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So I started cutting the gluten out of my diet. If I'm at a party and there's a bite of a dessert that has gluten in it, I'm going to take a bite. But I don't generally fill my days with gluten, and I try to avoid it at all levels. But I also know that most people don't want to be told that they can't eat this and they can't eat that and they don't want to do this. And I also know, after working with people for 30 years and watching people go from their 20s to their 30s, that their 50s, I'm sorry, it's a good thing I went to math, that, you know, you get to be 50, you've never been sick a day in your life, and all of a sudden your body is like, F you, this isn't working. Now I need thyroid. Now I'm pre-diabetic. Now, and it takes until people are almost 60 years old to be like, oh, maybe I should take care of my body. I guess I'll do what, you know, my friend's been telling me to do. My doctor suggested I do. I heard somebody do on a 60 Minutes show. But why does it take that major health scare for anybody to be like, I'm going to do this? Like, what is it about us that is so dense?
That is human nature. We choose pleasure and the least discomfort over change. Is more uncomfortable than our regular discomfort that we're familiar with. You know, there's a story about a dog who kept moaning every day for days on end. And finally somebody asked, like, why is the dog moaning? And it's because he was laying on a nail, but it wasn't that bad that he actually got up and got off the nail. He just complained about it. And Lisa Nichols tells this story. She's amazing. And that's how we are. Like, it's bad enough for us to complain, but it's not bad enough for us to actually
have to pick
feel
up and
the
move.
discomfort of change and to move forward into a new direction. So for some people, they have to hit rock bottom. The discomfort has to be worse than the unknown, the unfamiliar of change. And so I used to try to drag people over to that side of like, you need to change. And then I realized like, I can't want it more than them. And that's another reason that the medical system is broken, because doctors are trying to get patients to do stuff that they're not ready to do. And so I don't take insurance. You have to pay me out of your pocket and be ready to invest your time, which is like way more expensive than your money.
Yeah.
So you have to want it more than anybody, because you're going to be making the changes. And so I only work with women who are ready to feel different. And I always try to, say to women, don't say I can't have gluten. Say I choose not to have gluten, because I can have it, but I don't want to feel that way. So I choose not to eat gluten because I love how I feel when I don't eat gluten.
Can I tell you, that's so funny, because my daughter will like come up to me with like a picture of a strawberry shortcake on her phone. Oh my God, look at this. Doesn't it look just yummy? And I'll be like, not to me, but you say it in a different way. And the reason I say not to me is because I know, number one, how much insulin I'd have to take to eat that. Number two, how it will feel while I'm waiting for the insulin to kick in. Do I pre-bolus? Do I wait 15 minutes and then eat? Am I going to drop later because I took insulin too early? Yeah, no, it doesn't even look yummy to me because I have all this going on in my head. But what this is not OCD and it's not anxiety. It's reality and facts. And so I so wish that anybody who listens to you here or anybody else, that the light bulb will go off, but it doesn't for everybody until either you get sick, like you said, or you invest your hard-earned money. And so you're making the commitment. And it's like, I don't know how you push people to read, listen, and do what you can to feel better, because there is something better than this, than the way most people, I have so many friends, you mentioned this early, who do not go to the bathroom every day.
Yep. Yeah. And you know what? I just have come to a point where I give people grace to be their broken human selves. Yeah. And I have realized that we're all on this short earth, for a short time, for some kind of journey. And for a lot of us, it is a health journey. It is to figure out that we are more than our body, but our body is an important part of the experience. And the more that we take control and participate in this experience, in this journey, like the better it can be. We have this mindset, like things are happening to us. Oh my gosh, my schedule is my boss's fault. And like my lack of free time is my kid's fault. And it's like, no. We are making daily choices all day long that are affecting our life. And as soon as you take back control of that, like everything can shift. And if you don't want to take back control of that, that's cool. But I might just love you from a distance because that could affect my life. I don't want to have to be there to clean up your messes when you're irresponsible with your body and yourself. Nikki, one of the best things my mom ever said to me was, I take care of myself every day so that you don't have to take care of me when I'm older. And I just thought that was the most precious gift she could ever give me. Better than
the exact
anything
opposite.
She could ever buy.
I had the
me.
opposite mom. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. Because they live a reckless life and then you have to care for them for 20 years. And it's very sad. I have a lot of patients whose moms smoked their whole life and are diabetic and have all these health problems. They can't walk. They can't take care of themselves. They're wetting the bed. And so all that recklessness is now on people that you supposedly love. So for me, I don't think self-care is selfish. It's selfless. I'm doing it for my children, for their future, for my spouse.
And to teach them how to get the most out of their life as well, to give them the tools by watching you, because that's where we learn.
Yes.
I mean, we
break the cycles.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I watched my mom never go to doctors, she just didn't go. And then she found out she had lung cancer and then she died. And I used to beg her I could hear the emphysema. Please, I'll pay for it. She had money, but I was like, I'll pay for it. Just do it for me. Then they're going to tell me I have emphysema. Why would I want to do that? Like I don't know if that was a generation of people, and maybe it was. I think those of us who are where we are now are, and also just the idea that you can Google anything and information about how to feel better is out there. And by the way, I'm just going to put another ad in here for you. If you're falling in love with Dr. Tabatha, ladies or gentlemen, and you're a lady that you love, but do you treat men?
We do sometimes, we treat the women and then they're like, can you help our husband?
Okay. So if you're loving what you're hearing, if you just put in the Gutsy Gynecologist, you don't have to remember any websites, just the Gutsy Gynecologist is the only one out there. So I just want to get that in there. But, okay. So let's say that you give me a timeline and you figure out what I'm going to do, and I start doing everything and I feel better and I'm eating right and I'm not drinking ridiculously and I'm having a bite of this and a bite of that. When I am balanced, what happens when the imbalance, like for me, my balance, like the way I see my life is about walking a tightrope. And all day long, I'm like, I see that it started with my diabetes because I watch it on a timeline in my sensor, but I've also begun to do that with my sense of, anxiety or how I'm handling things. Like I literally spend my days on a tightrope, just trying to keep the balance of everything, make sure I exercise, make sure I get all my water in. And you teeter all the time. Do you still teeter?
I do teeter, but I don't think of it that way, I guess. I just keep saying, begin again, just move forward. Stop trying to be perfect in the moment, because you are going to fall and you are going to be out of balance. And so I always just am envisioning the person that I want to be and my future. And I'm always starting again, because I think that's where most women are failing themselves, is they throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, I didn't work out on Monday, so screw the whole week. I might as well give up. I ate that piece of cake.
My diet's over.
Done. My diet's over. And we need to give ourselves more grace and know that, like, all these little tiny things make such a huge impact when you add them all up. It's never that one tiny thing. It's never just the cake. It's never just the salad and the broccoli at dinner. It's the culmination of this stuff every day, repetitively. Consistency creates change. When you go to the gym and you work out one day, you look the same. Mm-hmm. But if you go to the gym and you work out every day for 6 weeks, you will look different.
Yep.
You don't know when it happened. It just happened. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh. So if somebody could just stick to something and be consistent with it for 6 weeks, their whole world is going to change. They're going to see a different possibility. Right. That's where most of us are falling short. And it took me a long time to figure that out too. And I still fall short. I still want to sleep in after I've been traveling. I still want to just grab a frozen gluten-free pizza because I don't want to cook. And I know that there's going to be consequences, right? I'm going to teeter.
Yeah.
And so you just try to make the best decisions with the information you have at the moment, and then you don't beat yourself up about it, because that's where women also are destroying themselves. Like, oh my gosh, I suck. I'm so fat. I can't do this. Like, why try? Like, you have to stop all of that conversation happening, all of those recordings going on in your head, probably from your mother and your sister and your friends as children. Like, that's got to stop. You have to start speaking to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love.
Yeah. So the teetering for me is never a negative thing, because it's about the possibilities of, yes, I had a bite of this, and so I felt like this a little bit, but then I gave myself a little bit of this, and then I felt better. So I didn't mean it in a negative way, but the idea that on the healthiest level, you still teeter, you still grab a gluten-free pizza, you still sleep in after you've had a long trip home. But
heck yeah.
And so do you, when somebody calls you and is really sticking to the plan, but they teeter and they call you and they tell you they're having a bad moment or a bad day, what do you, I mean, obviously you say to them what you said to me, listen, we all have bad days, we all have bad moments, but does the functional medicine treatment change years later from the teetering also? Does that make sense? The question I'm trying to ask you?
The cool thing is that when you clean up your body and it's functioning well, you don't tolerate all that misery the way that you used to. Like if I eat gluten, I know right away my body's not happy, and I can quickly get back to my healthy self. So in that regard, it's much easier. So people are like, I can't possibly give up gluten. I'm addicted to sugar. I can't possibly give up my pop or my soda wherever you are in the country. And it's like, once you have broken up with all that stuff, you can't imagine going back, because it feels so terrible. When you feel bad, everything feels bad. And so it's hard to decipher what's happening. But when you feel good and you reintroduce bad, it's so much more obvious. You're like, oh, okay, that's got to go. Yeah. And it makes it so much easier to get back on the horse and to do the right thing and to feel better quicker. It doesn't take another 6 or 8 weeks of a whole regimen of something, unless you really went on a bender.
Right, which people do too. But okay, so, it's whenever I have conversations with people like you that are so approachable, so smart, I don't ever want it to stop. But I also know that people are going to get bored from us talking about something we believe in so much if they don't. It's just like, oh, turn the channel. It's too much of all this, hoopla about this, I'm going to stop eating. Okay, so let's just say that you're reaching out to someone who is on the fence still. And we're not begging you to change. We're not telling you why you should change. But what's the one thing you can say to somebody who's on the fence about, I know I don't feel well, I'm not ready to commit, I don't have the money to commit or whatever, but I really want to, but give me a piece of something that says to those who are like at least interested but not committed yet, why you should at least think about it just a little deeper.
I always encourage women to think about who they wish they were. Like, I had an idea of a healthy woman in my head when I was working 90 hours a week and doing deliveries in the middle of the night and seeing 40 patients a day and not eating lunch and falling asleep at my desk. I said to my assistant, I just want to sit down and drink my cup of coffee while I talk to my patient, and I just want to eat my lunch. Like, that was an idea of like an amazing life to me that I couldn't obtain. And so I encourage women, like, sit down and think about, who is this woman you want to be? And when I got clarity, like, I want to wake up early and I want to be super fit and be a great example for my kids. I want to have boundless
I've seen you
energy.
in a bikini.
Thank
I know it's
you.
working.
Yes. I want to have boundless energy and like date my husband and travel and do all the things. And then you reverse engineer. What does that woman do every day? And then you start doing that and you live into this future self that you want to be. So you say, okay, well, she must get up at 5 a.m. and go work out. She must do her daily devotionals or her journaling. She must go to therapy and work on her relationship. Like, figure out what the woman you want to be does every day and start doing some of that. And it will really start to open new possibilities for you. Like, oh, I don't have to be like all my friends. I don't have to be overweight and unhealthy. I don't have to be, exhausted and crashing on the couch by the time I'm done working. Like, no, you can actually be whatever you want to be. And I'm living proof. Like, I was miserable. I had no memory. My assistant had to tell me the babies I delivered the day before because I had no capacity to make memories. I was so sleep deprived. Isn't that sad? Like,
it's horrible. And these doctors are people that we look up to for guidance in our health, and they're sick. And earlier you said that self-love is not selfish, it's selfless. And when you said that you wanted to be able to sit down and eat your lunch and have a cup of coffee, which is what you can do now on your teleconference calls. If anybody that's listening to this thinks that's selfish because now she's taking time for herself, this is a woman who went and got licensed in 21, 25. How many?
29, I think right now. Yeah. 29
okay.
states.
So it wasn't like she just put her feet up and said, I'm just going to talk to people on the telephone. She made sure that she took the tests and spent the money to get licensed so that she can help you and spend the hour with you whenever she wants to find out what's going on with everything in your life. Because I know all of you have been to a doctor and been like, I know that if I ran into that doctor at the coffee shop, they wouldn't have a fucking clue, pardon me, that they just saw my vagina.
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
weird. That's weird. Yeah. And here, my friends, is a doctor who will know you. I would bet that if you ran into somebody that at an airport that you had never met in person, there's a good possibility that you'd be like, Nikki, oh my God. And
exactly.
This is how our relationships with our doctors should be. And I am such a fan of that. Just watching you and how you, like the conversation we had last time, you're paying attention. You're not checking off a checklist. And watching the clock. So there's so much more to talk about, guys. And I wish I could keep Dr. Tabatha for 9 hours, but I think you guys would check out. But if you want to hear more from me and Dr. Tabatha, let me know. If you just want to find out more about Dr. Tabatha, the Gutsy Gynecologist, Dr. Tabatha Barber, Barber. What else should we tell them before we let them go and don't make them listen to us?
Yeah, I mean, listen to the podcast. I talk about all these topics in detail. And for some women, it's just they need that one little aha, like, oh, that's what's going on with me. And then you can dive deeper and start researching. And I just invite you to just take back control, own your body. You're not going to get the answers from any white coat. Like, I can guide you, but I can't fix you. I can't make you choose your breakfast. I can't make you go outside and walk after dinner. That is all on you. So if you want an amazing life, it's totally possible. And I can help you with that, but I can't do it for you.
She can give you the tools to be your own doctor, in other words.
Yeah, exactly.
And I am so grateful that there are people like you. And I hope that one day medical school is integrating functional medicine so that in the future, there are more women like you for women like me.
Yes, exactly. It's slowly getting there. You know, I trained through the Cleveland Clinic Institute for Functional Medicine, and they are incorporating it into their residency programs in a few areas. So slowly but surely, it's trying to seep its way in. We'll see.
Okay, guys, you want more? Go to the Gutsy Gynecologist. You want to know anything about what I know about her? Email me, text me, Instagram. She's all over Instagram. She's everywhere. You can, if you're interested, you can find out. And if you're truly interested, then find out more and take care of yourself because you deserve a better life.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, don't go anywhere because I want to say goodbye to you properly, but I'm going to let them go, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for watching.